Hi everyone, it's Zoe here from Living with a Sleeve, back at you for my live weekly Facebook. Today I am going to chat to you about the part 2 in my frequently asked questions with regards to weight loss surgery, and particularly in terms of a sleeve. So last week, if you're interested, you can go back and find the video. Last week we spoke about 3 questions. First one was, did I stretch my stomach? The second one was, is it too late for me? That was talking about weight regain. And the third one was, how much protein do I need? So I discussed all of those last week and gave you some links. And there's a blog post coming out with all of the frequently asked questions in the next couple of weeks, so you can keep an eye out for that too. Today, I'm going to tackle 2 questions. They're big-ish. So the first one is, are weight loss stalls normal? And the second one is, how do I combat stress eating? Because these are both so common and really, really frequently asked questions that I get all the time in our members community, but also just with clients one-on-one. Then next week I'm going to do a third part, and I'll cover a few shorter questions. So I'm going to look at things such as, why am I still hungry all the time? Why do I still throw up? Can I drink alcohol after weight loss surgery? And what vitamins do I need to have, and do I still need them long term? So keep an eye out for that Facebook Live next week as well. So let's get started. As always, if you've got any questions or comments as we go through, just please post them in the comment section and I will have a look at them as we go. First and foremost, we're going to look at, are weight loss stalls normal? So this is a question that I get asked all the time, and it doesn't seem to matter what stage people are at, they're still asking that question around weight loss stalls. So sometimes people will be maybe 1 month post-op and their weight stalls for a week or a couple of days. And of course, you get really nervous that maybe the surgery isn't working. But I'm happy to tell you that most of the time, weight loss stalls are normal, and it's a normal part of the process. So don't beat yourself up about it. If your weight stays the same for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, it depends on what stage you're at. You really need to, first of all, not beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. Maybe review your habits. But the first thing that I want to ask you to ask yourself is to actually check if your weight loss has stalled. Because sometimes when we think, oh, I've been at the same weight for 2 or 3 days, we automatically think that that weight has stalled. Even if it's a week or 2, we think that that weight has stalled. But often what's happening is that we're getting a lot of noise if you're weighing too frequently. So if you weigh yourself every day, then the scales are going to go up and down based on how much you've had to eat or drink, whether you've gone to the loo, whether you're hydrated, if you've done some exercise that day, what clothes you're wearing at the time. So there's a lot of error. So I normally recommend to my clients only to weigh once a week at most. And the other thing to think is, if your weight on the scales has stayed the same for a couple of weeks, think, has anything else changed? Are my clothes fitting differently? Is my shape changing? If I'm exercising, have I got a lot stronger? Have I perhaps put on some muscle mass? How's my fitness going? Do I feel fitter, more energetic? Do I have control over my food, rather food having control over me? And really, what I'm trying to get to when I start to think about, get people to think about those questions, is really kind of starting to think about what is more valuable to you than the number on the scales, because sometimes we put way too much emphasis on the number of the scales, and it is really important to think about what else we value and where you've come from as well in your journey. So if it does seem like your weight is stalling, perhaps it's been a couple of weeks, perhaps it's been a month or 2, first things first is to check your habits. So what I have provided, and I'll link to this blog post in the comment section when I'm done, is I have a habits checklist, which basically you can go through and you can have a look at all of the habits that we are ideally wanting someone that has a sleeve to develop and to turn into a daily habit. And you can go through those checklists, and especially if it's been a while since your surgery, maybe a couple of years, it's good to remind yourself of all of those things because sometimes they can just kind of get lost or forgotten along the way. So that checklist will allow you to kind of assess, remember, remind yourself of what you should be doing, and then to see, how often you're doing those habits each day. Then you can have a look at, are you eating enough? Or maybe are you eating too much? So our weight tends to stall for either of those reasons. If you're not eating enough food, sometimes your body will go into starvation where it's trying to basically hold on to whatever reserves it has in case it's not going to get its next meal for another couple of days or a couple of weeks. So it is important to just maybe check in with yourself and see, am I actually eating enough food, enough protein and enough energy? So usually we're aiming for around about 8 to 1200 calories a day, but obviously that changes a little bit, so speak to your dietitian. Sometimes if you're eating too much, obviously the weight can stall because you're eating more than you need. So really what we want to focus on then is focusing on when you're eating, when you're not actually hungry, and that'll come up in the next question that I answer. My fourth tip is mix it up a bit. So your body is very clever and it really adjusts if you do the same thing over and over again in terms of diet and exercise. So what you might need to do to get things moving again is to start either exercising a bit more or change the type of exercise you're doing. Bring in some strength exercise if you've only been walking, for example, or maybe try like swimming or a class, something different, and vary the intensity as well. And the second thing is to mix up what you're eating. So maybe you try a few new recipes, maybe you try kind of mixing up perhaps the timing of your food over the day. Make sure you're getting enough fluid as well. The fifth thing is check your sleep. So sleep is so important to successful weight loss and for our mental health and for healing and our immune system and all sorts of other things, but also not enough sleep will drive our appetite. So just check and see if you're getting that 6 to 8 hours a night. And if you're not, is there a time during the day when you can get in a sneaky little nap? Or is there a way that you can go to bed earlier at night so that you can plan your evenings that you're in bed earlier or wake up a little bit later in the morning? And I know sometimes this feels impossible, but it is a really important thing to try to focus on. And the sixth thing is get some support. Check in with your team. Check in if you're in our members community, you can check in there. Lots of people ask this question in there and we sort of go through what's been happening and what they've been doing. If you have a dietitian that you're regularly in touch with, make an appointment, see a surgeon. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So that is the most important thing, especially if you if you had surgery quite a long time ago. So I hope that has helped. If anybody has questions on that one, so that one was, are weight loss stalls normal? Short answer is yes. The long answer, if you've just joined, you can skip back a few minutes and listen to kind of what to do about it. The second question that I wanted to answer today was, how do I combat stress eating? And this ties in a little bit with the weight loss stalls because stress levels are linked to a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol is a little bugger of a hormone. It increases our appetite and it increases our fat storage, particularly around our middle. So if you are experiencing a lot of stress, like a lot of us are at the moment, if you're not sleeping well, then that could be kind of driving that weight gain, but also it could be causing you to eat for comfort and just to relieve that stress. So this is an old pattern many of us have. Comfort eating for stress or tiredness, or maybe you're feeling sad, maybe you're feeling happy, and it can be that we rely on food, but it can also be that we turn to things like smoking and alcohol. But the problem with using food or smoking or alcohol or any other unhelpful habits to manage our stress is that they only provide a temporary fix. And if you're using something like food or alcohol, you're probably eating more than you need, which then contributes potentially to weight regain or to weight stalls, or for you to feel at the very least guilty about how much you're eating during the day. And that then contributes to your stress. So it's this really vicious cycle in which you feel stressed, you eat, that causes more stress, and so you eat more. So instead, we all need to work on really healthy ways to deal with stress. And there are lots and lots of resources out there. I'll post a link to a blog post that I've done that has a whole bunch of ideas. And combating stress and dealing with it in a helpful way can be really, really tricky, but it is one of the keys to success in the long term. So think about what you can control here. And I posted on Instagram and on Facebook today about the things you can control and the things you can't control. And at the moment, with everything that's happening with the pandemic and lockdowns and restrictions and worry about family members and friends and what's happening maybe with our jobs and the economy, that's a huge stress. But we cannot really control it outside of, being safe, staying at home, wearing a mask, looking after ourselves and trying to do the best to protect our community. So that's an example of you then letting go of the stuff you can't control and really focusing on the stuff that you can control. And if you gain some control back, that will help you to feel less stress overall and to be able to manage that the use of food or alcohol or smoking, for example, as a stress reliever. Other things that you can do is reach out to a friend, a family, a therapist, take some time out for yourself. We've all got lots of time out at home, so that's probably not super helpful at the moment, but maybe just getting outside when you can to go for a walk, even just to sit outside on the front step or in the back garden so that you get some time with nature, some time out in the sunshine. Find a hobby. So especially if you stress eat at night or you eat for comfort at night, finding a hobby or something to do with your hands at nighttime is really good. So it might be as simple as playing like a game on your phone, or doing a cross stitch, or learning to knit, or anything really, that doing a Sudoku, anything that you can think of that will keep your hands busy and your mind occupied. You could also start to practice some mindfulness or some meditation, and that ties into learning to eat intuitively as well. So really being able to regulate those emotions and being able to slow down and stop and pause and regulate your breathing and be able to think about before you eat whether or not you actually feel like eating, whether it's a choice you would like to make, or if you might be eating because you're in that stress relieving cycle. Lots of people try to keep a gratitude journal, which can be helpful. Lots of people also try to start saying no to things, which is a little bit different at the moment, but sometimes we can say yes to so much. So starting to say no can again bring you back to that things that you can control. So you know how much is on your plate and how much you can manage and how much you want to manage. You could ask for a hug from somebody within your household or a pet. I don't think you can see him, but my little cat is right here behind me and he is very good at cuddles. You can also just ask for help. So again, ask for help. If you're a member of the Living with a Sleeve community, you can ask for help in there. There's lots of supportive people there. You can ask for help from a friend, from complete strangers are sometimes easier to ask for help and for ideas. So, look for Facebook forums or forums online that could be helpful for you. And finally, if you can, distribute some of your load to others. So if there is some stuff that you evaluate that you're doing that is taking up time or adding to your stress bucket, trying to find a way to reduce that helps. And that kind of ties in with the saying no to others as well. So look, combating stress eating is not easy. It's really, really tricky and it takes lots of practice. But there are lots of simple little things that we can try to implement that really kind of lets you get some of that control back and reduce those stress levels, particularly at the moment with everything that's going on in the pandemic. So I hope that's been helpful. Today we've spoken about weight loss stalls and what to do about them, and then how to combat stress eating as well. So if you have any questions that you would like to add to and you'd like me to cover in a Facebook Live coming up, then please just comment, send me a private message if you would prefer. Next week, as I mentioned before, we're going to tackle, there's about 4 or 5 questions left. So I'll look at, why am I still hungry all the time? Why do I still throw up? Can I drink after weight loss surgery? What vitamins do I need? And do I still actually need them? And then we might even look at, can I do another diet with weight loss surgery? So something like fasting, for example, does that work after you have a sleeve? So I hope that's been helpful. I'll post some resources in the comment section. Please let me know if you have any feedback or if you want a topic covered. Otherwise, I will see you all next week. Okay, guys, bye.